All right, here with Jesus Ortiz, CEO of Our Esquina.com, longtime Major League Baseball beat writer, former president of the Writers Association as well. Hall of Fame time is always a hot topic, Jesus. You've done this a long time with the vote. And around Houston, it's all in recent years, where is Roger going to land? Roger Clemens. Explain kind of what that process is like for you. I guess the honor you have, I know, for casting a vote each and every year for your ballot.
Yeah, this has been the 16th year I've cast a ballot. It's heartbreaking for the last 10 years because I believe that Roger Clemens deserves to be in. I voted for Roger Clemens, but I think he's going to be shut out yet again. And it's tough to have a guy with 7 Cy Youngs not get in the Hall of Fame.
What is, when you look at Roger and obviously what he went through post-career, is that something that's going to be a cloud over him? This is the last chance he's got to get in, right? And if not, explain what can happen moving forward.
Yes, so it's heartbreaking because Bud Selig's in. And Bud Selig and the Mitchell Report is essentially why Roger Clemens is not in. Because he would have cruised in the same way that David Ortiz might cruise in until the Mitchell Report named him, and then he fought, all the way to Congress, all the way to, and he was not guilty. He didn't lie to Congress.
Yep.
He's always steadfastly say he didn't take steroids, but a lot of voters don't believe him. Mm-hmm. So now he'll have to be voted in. In 5 years, he'll come up on a Veterans Committee. And I think the Veterans Committee is going to be harsher than even the voters. So I do not see him getting in for a long time.
So this is the last year in the regular balloting, right? And then he's got to wait 5 years before the
Veterans Committee, yes.
So there's definitely 5 more years minimum.
Yes.
Before that he can even come up again.
Absolutely.
Do you think, I don't want you to speak for Roger, but maybe do you think he sees the writing on the wall?
I would assume so. I actually texted him today. I haven't heard back from him, but I would assume that he knows. He knows the numbers. He follows this.
Yeah.
Sadly, last year, the public ballot said he was near the 75% threshold, but the public, he was 11% less. So if those numbers are the same this year, tomorrow he's going to be somewhere around 65. And that's not going to get him in. You need to be 75% to get in, and he's not close.
Explain, if you can, to those watching, the everybody that has a vote, you're not made. You can keep it private if you choose. Mm-hmm. You've been always willing to make it public, as have others as well. Talk about that specifically, the public vote and the private vote, and why his number, and maybe others as well, historically goes down.
So a lot of us reveal our ballots. And because, we want to be accountable to the people. Some others, friends of mine, they won't reveal it because it's become so nasty, especially with Twitter. You have so many people who are jerks. You have so many people who have agendas. If you don't vote for a guy, and sometimes you think it's not worth it. Is it worth hearing from some knucklehead from Colorado because you didn't vote for his favorite player? This year so far, 46.4% of the ballot has been revealed already. Guys have shown their ballots. Ryan Thibodeau does a great job tracking all our ballots. And I think it's important, as you are the same way, that we be accountable, right? We expect Roger Clemens to be accountable, so we should be accountable for our votes. Some guys don't believe that way. And at one point, the BBWA, we actually voted to make all ballots public, but the Hall of Fame overruled us. And what people don't understand, and I always try to drive this point home, the Hall of Fame lets the BBWA vote. It's not our vote. It's the Hall of Fame's vote that they give us. They could take it away tomorrow just as easily as anything else they do.
Do you like, with that said, I want to ask you, the current setup of the way this vote is right now, you agree or disagree with the way it's set up?
I agree 100%. The only thing, there are some guys who I think haven't covered a lot of baseball, but because they've been columnists or they're sports editors, they've had a ballot for the last 10 years. And some guys, if I don't see you at the ballpark, or if I know you're not really a baseball guy, like, why the hell do you have this vote?
Right.
But that's the setup. So BBWA, we're an access organization. We fight for access for the players. We're not a Hall of Fame voting organization. Our organization is devoted to making sure that we're in the clubhouse, to making sure that we could cover these games freely. But the Hall of Fame gets, if you've been on the BBWA for 10 consecutive years, they'll invite you to vote. And you have to apply every year. Every year they send me an email, I have to apply, yes, I want to vote this year. But so some of our members, like the Houston Chronicle has 2 sports editors who have BBWA cards. Well, they're not out here.
Right.
And technically, only one sports editor is allowed per company, but whatever.
Yeah, I understand how that works. On Roger, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. When you look at the way you voted, let's say over the last 10 years, has it been a no-brainer for you when you check that box under Roger's name?
Absolutely. The greatest pitcher of his generation, 7-time Cy Young Award winner, over 300 and I think 364 wins or something like that. Like that's a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time. Barry Bonds, it's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But I want to remind you that about 4 years ago or 3 years ago, we got an email from Joe Morgan, which was essentially a Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds email without naming them, asking all the voters not to vote for steroid guys.
Wow.
When I was president of the BBWA in 2015, I got to stay at the Otesaga with all the Hall of Famers. And it's a magical place. They take great pride in having done it cleanly. I was just on the phone last week with Tony Perez and on a Zoom call with him on Saturday. And when you hear these men talk about their accomplishments and what they fought to do this, so a lot of the old guard, they resent their records being broken by guys who were cheating, like Barry Bonds. So I think Roger Clemens gets in 20 years. When some of the guys who are on the Veterans Committee played in the steroid era, because there's steroid guys already in there.
Right.
And they know that a lot of, Barry Bonds wasn't the only one doing shady stuff.
All right, when you look at Roger and, maybe one day he can get in, he's publicly said he's tried to put it behind. It's the past. He's moving forward. He's not thinking about it a lot. But, you know him well. If he does get that call one day, whenever that is, what do you think it'll mean to him?
I think it'll mean the world to him because he's always tried to be the best teammate, the best out there, the most dominant pitcher. And I'm sure in his mind, he thinks he deserves to be among the greatest because he was one of the greatest living pitchers of his generation. He's still, when we think of Roger Clemens, who was better than him during his prime? All those guys who are around there are all in the Hall of Fame.
You've done this for so long, and your website digs deep into baseball, and you've been around this game for many, many years. Talk about the honor you have to be able to cast that vote every year. What's it mean to you?
Oh, it's a very cool honor, especially because I was a former beat writer, because it showed that, for 10 consecutive years, and I did more than that, I was on that beat every day. And I devoted my life to covering baseball. And the first one was Tony Gwynn and Cal Ripken Jr., 16 plus years ago. And I was like, wow, one of my childhood heroes, I got to vote into the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And then when I was president, and like I said, you get to go spend the whole weekend at the Otesaga with those guys. It's magical to be on the stage with Joe Morgan and Cal Ripken Jr. coming up to me, great job. And it's an honor. It is an honor to do it. And I've shared it with readers every year. And I caught a lot of grief by some jealous, Houston media guy. But you know what? I've never apologized for it because we all love baseball and we're all in the business of promoting great baseball stories.
Bringing the game to life.
Yeah.